You've got to be kidding me. Paul Heyman just did the unthinkable. After months of standing by Seth Rollins' side, after promising loyalty, after swearing he'd never go back to Brock Lesnar, the so-called wise man just stabbed the visionary right in the back at WrestlePalooza. And let me tell you something right now, if you're not absolutely furious about what just went down, then you haven't been paying attention. This is the most disgusting, the most calculated, the most backstabbing move we've seen in years. Drop a comment right now and tell me, are you done with Paul Heyman forever, or was this the smartest play of his career? Because what I'm about to break down will blow your mind. Let's rewind to exactly what happened just minutes ago at WrestlePalooza. Seth Rollins was in the middle of the biggest match of his life, a championship bout that would have cemented his legacy as one of the all-time greats. The crowd was electric, the energy was through the roof, and Paul Heyman was at ringside, supposedly in Seth's corner, supposedly being the advisor and strategist that Rollins desperately needed. But here's where everything goes completely off the rails. As Seth was setting up for the stomp, as he was about to put his opponent away and capture gold once again, the lights went out. When they came back on, there he was, Brock Lesnar, standing at the top of the ramp with that same menacing smirk we all know too well. The Beast incarnate had returned. Now, everyone expected Paul Heyman to stay loyal to Seth. Everyone thought Heyman had finally found his integrity, that he'd moved on from his toxic relationship with Brock. We watched 4 months as Heyman guided Seth, as he cut promos praising Rollins' intelligence and work ethic, as he positioned himself as the man who would lead the visionary to greatness. Question for you in the comments, did you ever truly trust Paul Heyman, or did you see this betrayal coming from a mile away? But what happened next will go down in WWE infamy. As Brock started marching to the ring, Seth turned to Paul Heyman, looking for guidance, looking for his advisor to have his back in this critical moment. And what did the wise man do? He smiled. That cold, calculated, evil smile that we've seen 1,000 times before. And in that moment, every WWE fan watching around the world knew exactly what was about to happen. Paul Heyman slowly backed away from Seth Rollins, creating distance between them. Then, in the most cowardly move imaginable, he walked right past Seth, climbed out of the ring, and stood at the bottom of the ramp waiting for Brock Lesnar. When Brock reached him, they embraced like the reunion of old friends, no, like the reunion of partners in crime who had been plotting this betrayal from the very beginning. The look on Seth Rollins' face said it all. Shock, disbelief, rage. This was a man who had trusted Paul Heyman completely, who had brought him into his inner circle, who had defended Heyman against critics who said a leopard never changes its spots. And now, Seth stood alone in that ring, facing down Brock Lesnar with zero backup and the realization that he'd been played for a fool. What happened next was absolutely brutal. Brock entered the ring, and with Paul Heyman watching from the outside with that smug expression, the Beast delivered a beating that was vicious even by his standards. F5 after F5 after F5. Seth Rollins was left broken in the center of the ring, his championship dreams shattered, his trust obliterated, his entire world turned upside down by the ultimate betrayal. Let me ask you this, and I need you to sound off in the comments, who's more at fault here? Is it Paul Heyman for being the snake we always knew he was? Or is it Seth Rollins for being naive enough to trust a man whose entire career has been built on manipulation and betrayal? Because honestly, there's blame to go around here. Now let's talk about why this happened, because nothing Paul Heyman does is random. This man operates on a level of calculation that most of us can't even comprehend. Think about it, Heyman attached himself to Seth Rollins when Brock Lesnar was absent from WWE programming. He positioned himself as the guide who would take Seth to the next level. But here's the truth that nobody wanted to admit, Paul Heyman was always Brock Lesnar's advocate first and foremost. Their relationship goes back decades. Heyman discovered Brock. He molded Brock into the unstoppable force we know today. Together, they conquered WWE, UFC, and everything in between. That bond doesn't just disappear because Brock took some time off. And clearly, they had been planning this reunion the entire time. Seth thought he had found a loyal ally. The genius, and I use that word with complete disdain, of Heyman's plan was the timing. He waited until Seth was at his most vulnerable, in the biggest match of his career, when a betrayal would hurt the most. That's not just backstabbing, that's premeditated destruction of a man's career and reputation. Heyman didn't just want to leave Seth, he wanted to demolish him in the most public, most humiliating way possible. And let's talk about what this means for Brock Lesnar moving forward. The Beast is back, and he's got his wise man by his side once again. This makes Brock more dangerous than ever before. We all know that Brock with Paul Heyman is an absolutely unstoppable combination. Every championship, every superstar, every single person on the WWE roster should be terrified right now, because this duo is about to run roughshod over everything in their path. Here's a trivia question for the Real Wrestling Zone fans in the comments: how many times has Paul Heyman betrayed clients throughout his career? Drop your answers below, because this man's track record of loyalty is about as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. But back to Seth Rollins, what does he do now? The visionary just had his vision completely shattered. The architect just had his plans demolished. The man who prides himself on being cerebral and strategic just got outplayed by the ultimate chess master. Seth's options are limited and none of them are good. Does Seth go on a warpath seeking revenge against both Heyman and Brock? Does he try to find new allies who can help him fight back against this reformed duo? Or does he have to face the harsh reality that he was outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and completely used as a pawn in Heyman's long-term game to reunite with his true client? The psychological damage here might be even worse than the physical beating Brock delivered. Seth Rollins is a man who trusts his instincts, who believes in his ability to read people and situations. But Paul Heyman played him like a fiddle for months, feeding him lies, building false confidence, all while setting up the most devastating betrayal possible. How does Seth come back from that? How does he ever trust anyone in his corner again? And here's what really gets me heated about this whole situation: Paul Heyman stood in that ring week after week, cutting promos about loyalty, about doing what's best for business, about being the advocate that Seth needed. He looked us all in the eyes through the camera and lied with the conviction of a man telling the truth. That takes a special kind of evil, a special kind of manipulation that only someone like Paul Heyman possesses. Let me get your opinion on this. Comment below. Do you think Seth Rollins should have seen this coming? Were there warning signs that we all missed, or that Seth ignored because he wanted to believe in Heyman's reformation? Let's discuss. The WWE landscape has completely changed as of tonight. WrestlePalooza will be remembered as the night that Paul Heyman reminded everyone why you should never trust him, why he's called the devil's advocate, why his loyalty is only to himself and whoever serves his purposes at any given moment. And right now, that purpose is elevating Brock Lesnar back to the top of WWE, regardless of who gets destroyed in the process. This is the kind of moment that creates monsters. Seth Rollins could emerge from this betrayal as a more vicious, more calculated, more ruthless version of himself. Or he could crumble under the weight of this humiliation. Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the Seth Rollins we see after WrestlePalooza will not be the same man who walked into that arena tonight. So here's my final question for you, and I really want to hear your thoughts in the comments. What should Seth Rollins' next move be? Should he seek immediate revenge? Should he regroup and come back stronger? Should he find his own advocate to counter Heyman's genius? Drop your booking ideas below. This is the most controversial, most shocking moment of the year, and we're all witnessing WWE history being made right before our eyes. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar are back together, and the entire WWE universe just got put on notice. If you're as fired up about this as I am, smash that like button, drop a comment with your reaction, and share this video with every wrestling fan you know, because everyone needs to see this breakdown. Welcome to Wrestling Zone 1, where we don't just report the news, we dissect it, analyze it, and give you the real story behind the story.